Hello, everyone, and welcome to our live match reaction show on Football Talk Podcast. My name is Ozzie, and I'm your host for this evening. Liverpool produced a smash and grab job yesterday as they beat Nottingham Forest 1-0 in the final minute of the game. So, during the show, we'll do a quick match review. Plus, we'll speak about some of the standout performances from yesterday, as well as some rumors that have been circulating in the last 24 hours. So, let's start with my take or my review of the game. The first half, let's be honest, was a difficult watch as we hardly created anything, and quite frankly, the performance was below par. The real chances came from Forest, who almost scored in the opening few minutes through Hudson-Odoi. It was through on goal, but Alisson makes himself big and produces the crucial block to deny the winger. Then later, Milinkovic has a header from open play, just misses the target, so very close there from the Forest defender. In the second half, Liverpool certainly stepped it up, but to be fair, it couldn't get any worse than what they produced in the opening 45 minutes. Salah produced a knockdown towards Curtis Jones in the 6-yard box, but his effort is straight at Ortega. Sangare, who had a fantastic game uh, yesterday, has a shot from outside the box, but he drags it wide. And then this was the talking point. Salah being substituted for Rian Gamoa, wasn't really happy about that. But fair play to the young player. He came onto the pitch and had an instant impact. Playing on the right wing, um, he went on a run, produced a cross inside the box. Ekatike has the header, which gets blocked by the keeper. And then Aina tries to make a clearance, but ends up hitting McAllister on the back slash elbow, however you want to define it, and the ball goes inside the goal. But after VAR review, they deemed the effort from McAllister as a handball. I think it's a tad bit harsh, personally, as it wasn't a deliberate effort. You know, he was running inside the box, the defender made the clearance, it hit him from behind, so he had no awareness of where the ball was going to hit him. Uh, so I think that's a little bit harsh, and that's not just me being biased here. I feel like if the player is not aware, yeah, it should be advantage to the attacking goal there. But unfortunately, we were denied in that moment. But nonetheless, Liverpool then got the crucial breakthrough as McAllister finds the loose ball inside the 6-yard box and smashes it from close range to seal the win. So overall, let's be honest, that match was the definition of smash and grab. We were bang average in this game. But the difference between us and Forest in that game was that we showed a bit more perseverance, especially towards the latter stage of the game. And in the end, we got the defining goal that gives us all 3 points. Now, in terms of standout performances, I thought Van Dijk and Konate were solid as a rock. I thought Kerkez produced another great performance at left back. The talking point has to be the inclusion of Ruben Gamoa. He probably did more than what Gakpo and Salah did all game. Gakpo has been piss poor for the last few months, and Salah hasn't been as impactful as we expect from him. But this has been a problem for us all season, as our wing play has been pretty much non-existent. Neither Salah or Gakpo take on their fullbacks, which is why we lack service from the wings. And I've said this before, a winger is a young man's game. You need players with pace to add a different outlet in your team. Now, these players, provide creativity. And of course, another source of creativity comes from the middle of the park, but you still need pace on the wings to open up teams. That's why we've struggled against low blocks. And this is a huge concern for the short and long term. And personally, I believe both positions, in terms of left wing and right wing, need to be addressed this summer. But in regards to Rio and Gamo's inclusion in this game, I've been saying it for weeks and weeks. Give the kid a chance in the first team. I don't want to see him play for 5, 10, 15 minutes. He deserves to start games now, in my opinion. It will give him such a huge boost of confidence if he was to be selected for the upcoming games in the starting 11. I'm not saying that he starts every game until the end of the season, because I think that'll be a bit too much for such a young player, and we need to manage his minutes. But this is the time to see someone who hasn't played much this season, but what he will bring is a fresh legs on the wings, because right now we desperately need it. And what impressed me about Rio yesterday was the fact that he can play right wing. I thought he was predominantly a left winger, but he showed his versatility there, which could be a huge plus point for us in the long term and could save the club a lot of money as well. So for me, overall, he needs to be given a chance from now on. We're too predictable, and unfortunately, we rely very heavily on moments of magic from certain individuals to get us over the line. That's not how it should be, especially from a strong team like Liverpool. That's not the fundamentals of how football should be played. You have to dominate play, hold your possession, and create chances. That's how you kill teams. But for now, I'm pleased that we got the 3 points. We're still in sixth place. But United won earlier this season as they beat Everton 1-0. So currently in the table, we're 3 points behind United, but on the same points as Chelsea, who are currently in fifth place. So might not be the best of performances, but what Liverpool need to do now until the end of the season, keep winning games, and hopefully we can climb up further up the table. Before we talk about transfers, because there has been a few rumors circling, which I'm intrigued to get your take on. I'll also give you my perspective in terms of, are these the type of profiles that Liverpool should be looking at? I'm just going to go through some of the comments here. Bo says, Ozzie, big up, Bo. Hope you're doing well. Ozan, big up Ozan. So what happened to your client, Ozzie? Latest news on the injury. So apparently he had a slight back issue when he was doing the warm-up. It's nothing too serious, so he should be back in contention for the upcoming game. So we're playing, I believe, this Sunday. So he should be available. We don't have any midweek fixtures, so hopefully, he'll be back in the mix once again. Bo says, what an awful performance. That is slot ball for you. Yeah, it's slot ball, to be fair. Never seen a guy more lucky than Arnold Slot. Didn't deserve to win at all. To see the players celebrate the way they did the stupids, we were F shit. No need to celebrate anything. Look, regardless of what we think of the coach, of course, I think a large section of our fan base are not happy with the coach in terms of how he carries himself and how the team is playing their football. But when you're on the pitch and you're going through a game where, let's be honest, everyone was bang average, but you managed to get last minute winner, you have to celebrate. It's only right that you do. You have to feel that emotion of grabbing something out of the blue because it wasn't expecting us to get a win yesterday. So I think the players had every right to celebrate. I wouldn't say that was stupid of them. I think it's within their remit to celebrate in that manner. We want players to show emotion and passion, so that's the only way that we can see on the pitch. So I have no issues with them celebrating because it was a 1-0 win, and those 3 points could play a huge role in where we finish the season. So no qualms in terms of how the team celebrated yesterday. Thoughts on Salah Gakpo reaction when getting subbed off? Ozzie pretty saying that they don't like the coach. Surprised about Gakpo, that's his father-in-law, isn't it? But no, it does go to show that things aren't as plain sailing within the squad, but it could also just be frustration within themselves that they haven't performed well. And neither of them, to be fair, have done well in the last few months. I think Gakpo has been pissed for large parts of the season. Salah's been in and out in terms of his form. There'll be games where he's producing great moments, and then there's games where he's completely quiet and ineffective. So it just depends, what game you're watching. To be fair, but yeah, it's a conversation that we definitely need to have, and I'll be doing a special show tomorrow discussing the wingers in more detail because I do feel like it's two positions we need to address this summer. But also to see fans defend Slot over Salah makes me sick. Yeah, I'm not sure about that one, to be fair. The way Slot treats the young players is honestly horrendous. Didn't even look Salah in the eyes when he took him off. Slot out. Please don't tell me this game has changed your opinion on Slot, Ozzie. No, this would not be the game that would ever change my opinion. It could change my opinion on suggesting that I'll never do watch alongs again. And I'm glad I didn't do one yesterday. Not that it was premeditated. I had to do things with the family, but no, I was quite glad that I didn't watch the game live. But then again, I had to watch the game today in order to do the show. So um, yeah, I still wasted the 9 minutes that everyone else did yesterday. Unfortunately, I just didn't do it in live form. Shit game. Yes, it was. This game showed that Slot needs Wirtz to bail him out. Yeah, I think it was very evident that we've missed Florian Wirtz yesterday. The way he's performed the last few months has been, groundbreaking in terms of how we play. There's more creativity, there's more directness in our play. With him not there, and this is something that's probably underrated in terms of his pressing. He presses from the front. He's very busy in the final third, and we just lacked that creative instinct yesterday. And because he wasn't there, it was quite evident. So, that's something we need to address as well, because there will be games next season where he might not be available. So what do you do? Suppose that would be an adequate, I guess, replacement in that scenario. But we have to make sure we have other players in other positions. We don't want to see Sabozai playing right back next season either. So we need to make sure that that position has been addressed in the summer. Because there's rumors that Conor Bradley could be out for 12 months, as in it's a long-term injury. Like, he won't even be available for pre-season. He'll be available practically this time next year. So for me, that's virtually a player that's non-existent now. So we have to address that in the market as well. So, if Verts is not in the team, so Boza can do a job, but can anyone else do a job within the team? I think Curtis Jones can. I think he can play that number 10 role. But he was asked to play in a slightly deeper role yesterday. So it all comes from the manager, because these players are more capable of playing these positions, but it's the instructions that's given to these players, how to play and what's needed in order for the team to play as a collective. So yeah, it's just one of those things where if you had another coach, there would be a different direction in terms of the input that is produced. But right now, it's just, yeah, I feel like we're just grinding out results, which is not a bad thing at this stage of the season. But the season has felt like a long drag for us, which is, yeah, it's not been enjoyable, especially watching the games and doing watch alongs and stuff. So yeah, it's just one of those things. And Bossy Oshia say Aussie's client. Yeah, that's my client. That's definitely my client there. United won, thoughts, Ozzie. I didn't see the goal. I just saw the scoreline before I came on live. Yeah, annoying. And they clinched the win there against Everton. Everton had one job and they couldn't do it. So yeah, not really surprised. But hey, to be fair, it's one of those things where it's not really. We shouldn't really look too much into what United and Chelsea do. We need to do our own selves. We need to win our games. It's in our hands if we want to qualify for the Champions League. So we need to do better and make sure we get the wins. It's as simple as that. At this stage, I'm not too focused on performances. I just need 3 points on the board. And if we were to progress in the FA Cup and the Champions League, then we've got to perform better in those competitions more so than not. So yeah, a lot of games still left. We've got, I'll say, another 3 months of football left. So let's see, what the team can notch up. Football with ends, big up. So it's a big up, bro. Can't stay, but have a great stream. Need to catch up soon. Big up ends. Yes, I've been meaning to speak with you. So I'll be in touch here. So apologies, I've not been, just been very busy, as I'm sure you'll be aware. So yeah, definitely be in touch, and yeah, hopefully we'll get you on the channel soon as well. Dad says, big up Ozzie. Bro, any news on when Frimpong Isak could be back? Frimpong should be expected to return to training this week. Whether that means he's available for selection, I'm not quite so sure. I think he'll be training with the squad, but he might be on the bench. I think that would be the most that we can expect. In terms of Isak, it was mentioned last week in the press conference that he's doing light training. So he's running on the pitch, but he's not wearing studs. He's wearing normal running shoes. So it's slow progress right now. If everything goes to plan, he could be available from the end of March / early April. But when it comes to these long-term injuries in terms of rehab, it's not always clear cut. There can always be a slight hiccup here and there, so that delays the progress. So we'll have to just wait and see. But he could return late March, early April. But when I say that, that's me basically suggesting that he returns to training, not in the team. So I think we'll probably see Isak, if everything goes to plan, late April. I think that would be the time that we could expect to see him in action. And we've not got too many games after that as well, because the season finishes close to end of May. So let's see if he makes any appearances for Liverpool this season. I think he will, but it won't be too many games in my opinion. Boss Ozzy would have fell asleep. I'll be honest with you. I was watching the game last night on replay, and I was dozing off close to halftime. So can you only imagine if I was watching that live, doing a watch along? Yeah, that would have been a bit of an embarrassing moment because I would definitely have dozed off. And because I'm fasting now as well as it's Ramadan, the energy levels aren't as high. So um, me focusing on the screen, it might not be at the same levels as it has been this season. So yeah, I probably would have dozed off if I'm being honest with you. Both could it change? Rio needs to start. That's a fact. Rio has to start. I don't see it going anywhere else. I think he has to start from now on. I'm not saying he has to start week in, week out, but he deserves an opportunity to start games. And I think maybe with the fixtures coming up against Wolves next week, one of them, I think the FA Cup will be the most likely tie that he ends up starting. But I think it should be more than that, if I'm being honest. And the interesting debate will be where does he start? Because I've always, renowned Rio Engoma as a left winger. That's a position I've seen him play. Even in his sort of like youth teams that of course for Liverpool, and I know for Chelsea he was playing on the left wing quite a bit as well. But to see him play on the right wing and play it with real effect, it's a thing where you know what it could actually work both ways. So yeah, it's going to be interesting. But he definitely deserves a chance. I do agree. I think it's the time is now to add him to the mix and give him some valued minutes from the start, in my opinion. Deleuze to pick up yourself, he says, I can't believe bloody Man United are gonna finish above the Stockport team. Oz. I don't think they will. But let's see. I know that they're getting the jammy results now, aren't they? But yeah, we'll see. We'll see if that's how it ends up. I'm hoping it doesn't, to be fair. Boss says slot ball makes you sleep, but Hughes and I'm not gonna say that on screen bloody over. Uh, that's a wild comment. Okay, let's move on and speak about some transfers. So feel free to let me know your thoughts on some of the stories here. So the first one is Anthony Gordon, which should not be a huge surprise as he's been linked with the club quite a few times over the years. So apparently the latest rumor is that Liverpool are preparing an 80 million plus bid for the England winger. Uh, if Mohamed Salah leaves the club this summer, they believe the self Salah will doubtly fund the move, and the confident Gordon wants to make the move back to Merseyside. So my thoughts on this rumor. Well, if Salah was to leave, I don't think he'll leave for 80 million. I think, if we get that, hey, I'm not complaining because that's a good chunk of money there. But I think the realistic ball mark would be 50, 60 million pounds, especially when you're involving Saudi teams, because I feel like that's the kind of amount of money they would table a bid. But in terms of on the pitch, Gordon is not really a direct replacement for Salah. Gordon predominantly plays on the left. I know he's played for Newcastle on the right this season, but he's predominantly a left winger. So, that doesn't really solve the right wing position if Salah was to leave, and we don't have a lot of right wingers because we've never had understandings for Salah over the years. But in terms of Gordon, I'm not convinced that he's the guy for us to bring in. The only benefits of having Gordon is number one, he's a boyhood red. So you're expecting him to play with commitment and passion. He's good mates with Jones, which of course is a plus point. He's from the city, so he'll know exactly what it means to play for the Reds. And of course, from an attacking point of view, he used to play with Alexander Isak, so that could help in terms of you know bringing those two back together and reforming that same partnership that they did at Tyneside. So that could be the plus point in that regards. But when I'm looking at the squad, I don't think there's too much in between Gordon and Gakpo. I think uh, Gordon's more electric in terms of pace and dribbling, but I think Gakpo is probably better at shooting. Um, Even though Gordon has scored quite a few goals this season, so I don't think that's a huge upgrade on what we have. But it's one we can't completely rule out because it's always been in the background that he could be the player to come in. of course, when we were linked with last season, I was not impressed with the rumor because he was practically replacing Luis Diaz, and I don't feel like he's anywhere near Luis Diaz in terms of his level. But in current form, he's probably on par with Gakpo, even though I feel like Gakpo's been really, really poor this season. So this one will have to kind of keep an eye on because you just never know. And another thing, which is probably a bit of a boring topic, is that he fits the homegrown quota, which we're not fully blessed with. We do have to sign at least one or two players this summer, in my opinion, to make sure we're comfortable with registering homegrown players. So this could be one that we can look into, especially if Newcastle don't qualify for Champions League football. They may need to make some sales in order to meet the PSR rules there. So let's see. For me, I'm not overly not confident. This wouldn't be my first choice in terms of adding a left winger or a winger to our team, but he's on the list, but not the priority. If I'm being honest with you guys, um, Bo laughing for his previous comments there. But Ozzie McAllister is McAllister close to being able to sign for your elite agency? Not quite. If I do bring him on board to my agency, unfortunately, it might be so we can get a sale and I can get a huge chunk of money as part of the signing on fee. So yeah, that would be my only way of trying to get McAllister as one of our clients, unfortunately. But yeah, that's the that's the way I would look at it. To be fair, next rumor is Lucas Bergval. Now, the rumor is that I'm laughing because of the transfer fee affiliate here. So apparently, the asking price from Tottenham is £57 million for the Swedish midfielder. You've got the likes of Villa, Chelsea, and Liverpool expressing their interest in the player. Um, so thoughts on this? To put it bluntly, no, thank you, because there is no way that this fella is worth £57 million. No way in hell is he worth that kind of money. At best, he's an average player, and I wouldn't even spend more than 15 million on him. And that's not me even being rude. I've got no agenda on the player. I just don't think he's that good. I think he's very, very average. So for me, not the signing for us at all. So yeah, that's something I'm going to quickly dismiss. Not impressed by that rumor at all, but something I had to present on the show. Moving on, we've got another player from Newcastle in Malik Fiat. Now, apparently, he's been moved with a potential exit. You've got the likes of Bayern Munich and United preparing moves for the centre back, and Liverpool might also be in the mix. And the player only joined Newcastle last season for a fee of £30 million. So my thoughts on him, I really like him. I remember watching him against AC Milan. We played him last summer in our preseason fixture. He looked really good. He's left-footed, but he's very comfortable on his right as well. So he's one of those players where he might add a sort of a multifunctional element to our defense. Playing alongside Van Dijk, on the right side or on the left side, and in that regards, or if we're playing with a back three, he can play on that left side if needed. So he would be a great profile for us. I think the reason why there's rumors circulating in terms of his exit is because of Newcastle's uncertainty about qualifying for European football. They even their striker Voldemort is being linked to a move away from the club. So it's going to be interesting to know what happens at Newcastle. But if they don't qualify for European football and they need to make some sales, there's quite a few players that I do like in that Newcastle team, which I'm sure could fit the bill in additions to our squad, which I'm sure Newcastle fans won't be happy to hear. But that's just the way it goes in football, I guess. But in terms of this rumor, I don't think there's any weight to it. Even though I do think he's a talented player, but I don't think there's any truth to rumor at all. Um, Another player we've been linked with is Xhaka Biao. So apparently Liverpool are monitoring the progress of the Leeds United centre back. The Slovenian is seen as a replacement for Ibu Konate, who is likely to leave Liverpool at the end of the season when his contract expires. So my thoughts on the player, seen him a few times. I think he's a decent centre back. I wouldn't quite label him as Liverpool quality. So for me, not really the player I would like us to target. I think if if this was a scenario where we want this type of profile, it would literally be because this player is going to be third or fourth choice in the pecking order, and maybe the club views Jake as a Konate replacement, and he starts alongside Van Dijk. So in that scenario, then you do need a bit more experience in the back line, and having that experienced defender on the bench makes sense in this scenario. But I don't know what the situation is with Konate, which I was literally going to speak about after this player. So let's see. But this still wouldn't be the profile I would go for. I think there's other experienced defenders out there that can come in and fit the way we want to play. So for me, not quite the profile I think Liverpool will be looking at this summer. And in terms of the next player, is Ibu Konate. So the current rumor is that Liverpool will not be giving up on extending Konate's contract. The club does not seem willing to meet his financial demands. However, it is determined not to let him follow the same path as Trent Alexander-Arnold. So my thoughts on that, there's still uncertainty in regards to Konate's future at the club. My gut feeling for the last few months has been that I think he will leave on a free, unfortunately. But is that what I want? No. I would love to see Konate stay because I think, especially in the last 2 or 3 months, he's improved drastically. Start of the season, I think he was quite poor. And especially yesterday's game, it was quite evident in terms of how passionate he is, as a Liverpool player. He really enjoys playing for the club and for the fans. And, in terms of the character, he's a great character around the squad. So he looks like he's enjoying himself at the club. But what will be the sort of the deciding factor will be the contract in terms of financially, does it meet his requirements and how the club values him as a defender or as an individual? Because Van Dijk is at the latter stage of his Liverpool career. Of course, he might get a contract after his current one expires. We don't know. We'll have to wait and see. But no player lasts forever at a club, and we have to look elsewhere in terms of long-term successes. So do they view him as a potential captain, or do they see him as being one of the main men when it comes to our defense for years and years? That's something that they have to present as a project. That has to be something that they have to showcase, that he means a lot. He's an integral part of the club and the long-term plans of the club. That's the pitch that they need to go with. And if he feels that importance, then I think he'll stay. But at this stage, that's two factors. It comes from the financial side, but also, is it appreciated at the club? Because Real Madrid can definitely approach him and sell the project and say, you're the guy that's going to replace Rudiger. So we want you to be the face of our defense for years and years. You'll be playing alongside your friend Trent Alexander-Arnold. So they're going to paint that picture for him to sign on with them. Teams like PSG have also been in team. So of course, with him being from that part, in terms of being from Paris and being from France, that could definitely appeal to him playing for his hometown. You've also got Inter Milan that I saw earlier today linked to him. I don't know if that would appeal to him, but it's still a very much a quality side when it comes to European football. So there's always going to be suitors for Konate. So if Liverpool mean business, they need to do everything in their power to give him a good contract. I think from what I remember, I think he's on around 100K a week. I don't really watch in terms of how much these players earn. And I think he wants in the region of 200K. And I'll be honest with you, I think he deserves it. If you're giving Gakpo that same kind of money, why does he not deserve 200K? And if you look at the players of his sort of age group and his sort of level, they are earning that kind of range right now as well. So I think it's warranted that he deserves that level of pay rise. The big question is, do the club believe that he does? Is he worth the money? So, we'll have to wait and see. I would love for him to stay, but when there's a lack of noise, I see as the players destined to leave, unfortunately. And it's the same Robertson because we've not heard much from him either. So we'll have to sit back, wait and see, and then we'll assess the situation when the time comes. But right now, it's still up in the air. We don't know if he's going to stay or if he's not. Um, and the final rumor is regarding Joe Gomez. I think it's a bit of lazy journalism, but the rumor is that he's set to leave Liverpool this summer, with AC Milan being the early front runners, but there are there's three other clubs that are monitoring his development. So the reason I say this is lazy journalism is because this was the same sort of rumor that was circulating last summer. So on the transfer deadline day, I think Joe Gomez was linked with a move to AC Milan, but we didn't want it to happen, so we pretty much blocked the move. Um, is this a time that Joe Gomez will be sold? For me personally, it's a no. I wouldn't sell Joe Gomez, and that might surprise a few people. Thinking, why would you want us to keep a player that's not had the best of records when it comes to injuries? I agree. He's had quite fair share of injuries, but he's got 1 year left, and I feel like if he's listed as on paper as fifth choice centre back, which I think he would be if we were to sign another defender, or if Jack well currently if Jack Hay comes in, then he is technically fifth choice, isn't he? So that's a valuable player to have in your squad. A player that is multifunctional. You're not expecting him to start week in, week out, so you can maybe manage his minutes a bit better. This season, unfortunately, we've had to utilize him a bit more, which is probably why he's been a bit more prone to injuries. And he's only got 1 year left in his contract. So I would rather keep player of Joe Gomez's quality in the squad in order for us to challenge for all the honors next season. So call me selfish in that regard, but I want to have as many players available in our squad, and I think five centre backs is not a huge number. I think that's the norm. If I'm being honest with you, also about 10 centre backs. So if we want five, that shouldn't really be a big deal, should it? So I think Joe Gomez, whenever called upon, always delivers, and he's one of those players where even if he's not played a consecutive level of games, he still comes in and does a great shift. So he's one of those players. He doesn't need that rhythm. He can come in and perform at a great level and be in and out of the team and not feel affected, if that makes sense. So I would rather keep him and utilize his versatility, but also his experience will be very effective for the squad. So for me, I wouldn't sell him, especially 1 year left. We're not going to get a lot of money for him. Let's not be silly. We're not going to get 30, 40, 50 million for him. So why not just utilize his wealth of experience and hopefully use it to our advantage in our quest of winning silverware next season? So I wouldn't sell him. That would be my stance, but feel free to let me know in the comments what you think. So that's the final rumor. I can see there's a couple of comments there, so I'll just read that out before we close the show. That's big up, Dan. He said, Ozzy, do you think Rio starts in the cup and against West Ham on Saturday? Sorry, it's a Saturday fixture. I think he starts against Wolves. I don't think he'll start against West Ham, but that's just me predicting for slot. If it was my choice, I would start him against West Ham and Wolves back-to-back games. That's what I would do, and then maybe rest him against the second Wolves game, which will be a Premier League fixture, just so we're not overworking him in that regards. So yeah, that would be my angle, but I don't think that's what Slot will do. Slot will probably have him on the bench against West Ham, but start him in the FA Cup tie against Wolves. So let's see how it goes. Um, Steve said, "Good evening, Aussie chat. Liverpool need to sign Liao, Trincao, Constançao, Teixeira, Jao Teixeira, I remember him. Thiago Ilori. Thiago Ilori was supposed to be the next Rafael Varane, according to some. So yeah, he had a huge reputation when he joined us, but yeah, failed to deliver. Fabio Carvalho, yep, another one there as well, and Raul Moriles. Uh, Thoughts on Leone's ceiling? I think his ceiling is high. I was so impressed when we signed him last summer. I watched a few compilations. I was like, yeah, this guy is it. Like he was bullying Lukaku and Vlahovic like for fun. Like it was a joke for him. So I was very intrigued in terms of the signing, and it wasn't, a huge fee. It was about 20, 25 million pounds. His performance against Southampton was very promising, but unfortunately picked up an injury in that game. So we only got, a little taster in terms of what to expect from him. I do feel like he's got a high ceiling, and I feel like if he's able to get back to full fitness by pre-season, I think that's going to be key in terms of his involvement in the team next season. So yeah, fingers crossed. He's doing well in terms of his rehab. I think there was pictures last week circulating with him in the background alongside Isak. So that will suggest that he's about to start doing some light training as well. So maybe he'll be fit and ready for preseason. I don't think we need to rush him for this season. I think as long as he can be available for June, July, I think that's the perfect time. And hopefully, with a good preseason under his belt, he'll be able to challenge for a starting spot, which I think he has the quality to do so. So I've got huge expectations from Leone. I think the ceiling's high, and who knows, Jackie and Leone could be our centre back pairing for years and years because they would complement each other very well as well. So yeah, so I think his ceiling's high, and I rate him very highly. So I'm looking forward to seeing him in a Liverpool shirt, and hopefully, he plays a lot of games for us next season. But that is it for today, guys. Thank you so much for tuning in. Thank you to Bo. Thank you to Oz and Kabak. Shout out to Football with Ends. Shout out to Daz and Delu Steve for your comments. Appreciate your engagement as always, guys. If you haven't already, please don't forget to like, comments, share, and subscribe. Just got a comment here from Daz. Ozzie, will the Legends game versus Dortmund be streamed, do you think? It'll be on Liverpool TV. Yeah, so it'll be on LFC TV. So it'll definitely be shown. You can watch that live. I'm actually thinking I might even go to that game because I heard that Thiago Alcantara will be there. So that's one of my favorite midfielders of all time. So who knows? I might get a ticket to watch that game. So yeah, let's see. But yeah, it will be on TV for us to watch as well. In terms of upcoming shows, I have a show scheduled for tomorrow where we will be talking about our wingers. After yesterday's showing against Forest, is it time to upgrade on Gakpo and Salah? We'll talk about this in more detail tomorrow. So make sure to tune in and get involved with your thoughts in the live chat. So yeah, another show to look forward to. And that is it for today, guys. Thank you so much for tuning in. Take care, stay safe, and I hope to speak with you all very, very soon. Goodbye.